Hi guys, so this is going to be a video on how I set up my charts and scans. A lot of you have been asking me to recommend the best charting service in the US markets, or what are the must-have and essential indicators to put on a chart. So in this video, I'm going to go through how I set up my charts and scans in TC2000.com, which I believe is the best charting service for the US markets. And I do apologize in advance because I have a sore throat today. And I know that a lot of you use my videos as meditation videos. So my apologies if I sound like a horse in this one. Okay, so quick run through of the way I have laid out my TC2000. So I have an ultra-wide monitor on which I put my TC2000. And it's basically divided into 4 sections. So the first section is where I view multiple timeframes of the same one stock. So for example, in this case, I had ACCD or Accolade activated, and here I can see the daily chart for Accolade, the weekly chart, the hourly chart, and the 5-minute or the 1-minute chart. So this is just a multi-time frame view of the same one stock. Now, the second section is where I have a broad market overview. I will go through what each of these boxes are and how to set them up. The third section is where I have my open positions and my watch list. And the fourth section is where I have my current unsafe positions. So these are the 4 broad sections of my TC2000 layout. Let me now walk you through each and every box and what exactly is on there. So this is the daily chart for whichever stock I have selected. This is the bar chart is a chart of the SPX, which is the S&P 500. The gray line is the line for the industry that this stock belongs to. So in this case, we can see it's a tech stock. So this industry is just plotting the movements of the tech sector. If I change the chart to say IHS, which is a biotech company, then this gray line would automatically change and plot the chart of the biotech sector. And the pink line is the relative strength versus the SPY. And in the next section, I will show you how to put these on your chart as well as how to use them for interpretation. But for now, I just want you to note what these are, so you can get a broad sense of what is on my layout. This is the weekly chart for Accolade, the same stock. This is the hourly chart. And here I will usually have the 5-minute, but sometimes at the market open, the 1-minute, since the 5-minute candle would not have developed enough. So for the first half an hour or so, I usually stick to the 1-minute chart. But this is a microscopic view, basically. So why do I have these 4 views? Because I think I get a much better sense of what a stock is doing when I look at multiple time frames. So this is definitely the most important time frame. And this is the one of which most of my trading decisions are made. But this gives me a broader view. It helps me zoom out and get a bigger perspective on what is going on. I usually look at the last 2 years to see, is the stock in general in a downtrend, in an uptrend, breaking out of a new base, making a new high, etc. So I like having this macro view. The hourly just gives me really good indications of what the support and the resistance level on charts are. So I like having that there. It's a bit more drill down view of the daily. So for every daily bar, you'll have 6.5 hourly bars because you have 6.5 hours per day in the market. So it zooms in a bit. And the 5-minute or the 1-minute chart will usually just give me the most microscopic view of what's happening on this day in this hour. And I only refer to this chart when I'm entering a stock or making a sell decision. And you can go through my videos on how I enter stocks to see how I use that 5-minute chart. But this is not where I make my decision on whether or not a stock comes on my watch list or whether or not I want to enter it. It's only after I have made all the big decisions and I'm about to enter, that's when I look at the 5-minute chart. So overall, seeing these 4 different time frames together, along with how the general market is doing at the same time, how the S&P 500 is doing at the same time, how the industry of the stock is doing at the same time, and what is the relative strength of the stock compared to the S&P 500 gives me a really, really comprehensive view of what's happening in a stock's chart. And the reason I have all 4 together rather than just one, like most traders do, is so that I don't have to keep toggling back and forth between them. What a lot of traders do will just have one chart and then click here to switch to the weekly view or click here to switch to the 5-minute view. And that's something I used to do earlier too. But I figured it's a lot of unnecessary back and forth. And some information is lost when I'm looking at just one time frame of the chart. If I can look at all 4 simultaneously, draw a line here and see where the same line appears here, that gives me a much better picture of what's going on in the chart. And it also saves me the mechanical hassle of toggling back and forth again and again. Okay, now this little box here is my alerts, and you can set this up in TC2000 by going into tools. So if you've gone through my video on how I make my watch list every day, you have seen how I set alerts on certain stocks. And when those alerts go off, this is where they appear. I also get a ding sound, and I also get an email and a notification on my Apple Watch. So I never miss an alert because I'm basically getting it in 3 or 4 places at the same time. Now, this little box here is the 4 major indices of the market. So that is the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Qs, the Dow Jones, and the Russell 2000, which is the small caps. So these are the 4 most popular and influential indices. And seeing them just gives me a really good idea of what the broader general market is doing at any given point. Now, this below the indices is a list of the sectors. And this just gives me a more drilled down view of what the indices are doing. Sometimes what happens is that the broader markets would just be going down, but a few sectors are really standing out and catching a bid. So in that case, I get to see what's moving and what's not. And these can be super helpful in just letting you know what types of stocks you should focus on that day. I also talk about this a little bit when I discuss how I enter my stocks and how I use the sector strength. So you can check that video out for more details on that. Now, the last box in this section is the drawing tools box. This you can also add by going into tools, and rather than having it open on all of my individual charts, I just put the drawing tools here. So say I want to add text on any one of the charts. I would just click on T, click on the chart, and I can enter the text. So it's a very neat and efficient way of just keeping the drawing tools handy at any point. Now, this is a list of all my safe positions. So if you recall from the previous slide, this whole section is basically my open positions and my watch list for the day. So at the top, I have all my safe positions. Now, what do I mean by safe positions? These are positions where the stop loss is at or above break even. So basically, even if the stop loss is hit, I'm not going to lose any money on it, right? Because it's at break even or above break even. So that's the reason I call it safe, because that's a position that I'm now free riding or free rolling and has become completely risk free, and I'm not going to lose any money on. So these are ones that require much less attention from my side. Once my stop loss has been moved to break even or above, I can simply just let the stock keep going until it makes a violation. And I don't want to over manage these positions, so I keep them up here. I also made a video on when I move the stop loss to break even and make it a safe position. So if you have questions about that, you can check it out there. I don't want to repeat myself here. And this is a box where I put all my unsafe positions. So what are unsafe positions? It's basically positions where my stop loss has not moved above break even. So if the stop loss does hit, then I do take a loss on that stock. And that's the reason they are unsafe, because the risk on them is still open and I'm still at risk of losing money in those positions. So right here below is my watch list for the day. And I discussed in detail how I make my watch list for the day and went through a live example of me making it for the next day. So you can check that out if you want to know how I do this. But basically, once I've made my watch list for the day, this is where it goes. Now, the fourth and last section of my layout is where I put all the daily charts of my unsafe positions and all the 5-minute charts of my unsafe positions. So you can see here that I have 4 unsafe positions: CXM, Pod, Onan, and Mobileye. Here I have the daily and 5-minute chart of CXM. Here I have the daily and 5-minute chart of Pod, and so on for Mobileye and Onan. And why do I want to keep these on my screen? The unsafe positions are the ones at which I am at risk of losing my money. So these are ones that I want to keep a very, very close eye on. Usually, since I'm a breakout trader, as soon as I take a trade, if I have entered it at the right time, it should take off right away. And I should be able to move the stop up the same day itself. If my judgment is wrong or my entry was wrong, then these charts just tend to chop around. And for me to keep a very close eye on them and know exactly when to move the stop up to break even, I like keeping the daily and 5-minute charts of these unsafe positions open. It also gives me an indication of whether or not I should take more positions or be more or less aggressive. Say I have a few unsafe positions and all of them just break out and keep going up, and I'm able to move the stops up. That would tell me the market is very conducive for buying breakouts, and I would tend to get more aggressive. And say a lot of them just go nowhere, then that would make me stop buying breakouts and get into more defensive mode. Also, if something just keeps going sideways and the train does not arrive on schedule, so to speak, or to quote Minavini, then my time stop triggers, and I usually just cut that position out.